Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Oceana. I am doing the mid-year book freakout tag, and I'm also with all the birds, so you might hear some chirping. Put all of the questions down below. I know that this tag has been tweaked throughout the years here and there. These are the questions that I currently have. There's 11 of them, and feel free to use them or look up the tag yourself and do whatever you want. The first question is the best book you've read so far this year. And it's hard because I wouldn't say I've had a ton of 5 stars this year, but the 5 stars I have had are so good. So also sorry for the plane. Ultimately, I landed on Dangerous Beauty by Melissa Coslin just because I just loved the characters and the writing of this book. I thought it was so well done because it's about a very big topic that could easily kind of blow up and become too big for one book. But I think because the author kept it character focused, it did so well in just talking about this important topic, but then, still making it work. So what I'm talking about is this does follow human trafficking in the States, and you follow a Mexican girl who was trafficked abducted, I guess, out of Mexico and brought into the state, and she has no one. Her family is dead and she literally has no one. So she's on the run. She does manage to get away. And in the first chapter, she's running and she stops at this convenience store. Guy who is, you learn a lot about him, but he is kind of in this trafficking world in a good way. He's trying to combat it. He sees her and recognizes the signs of trafficking, and he ends up saving her. And the way that he does that is because she's an illegal immigrant, he basically has to marry her to let her be allowed to stay in the States and to protect her. So that's the first chapter, and that's what you follow. And you really follow the two of them, but mainly the girl, her trying to navigate this new life that she has. And she has a lot of really thoughtful internal monologues that I've really enjoyed, just getting to know her character. I found her very deep and relatable. And then there are some bigger plot things that happen, I guess, but ultimately it is about these characters, and that's what I love so much about it. So honestly, I highly recommend this book. It is a Christian fiction book. There is faith in it, and it is clean in the sense that there's no language or explicit content beyond describing briefly and mildly the condition of these girls as things happen. But I think that this is my favorite book of the year, even though I've read so many good ones. And it's basically, they're all at the top sitting at number 1, but this is the one I wanted to share about. So there you go. Okay, question 2 is best sequel you've read this year. And I wouldn't say I've read a ton of sequels, but the sequel to A Noble Masquerade, which is An Elegant Facade, I loved the sequel because the sequel has scenes from this first book in a different character's perspective. And I love that. I love seeing a scene in every character's perspective. In this book, you alternate perspectives, same with this book. But it's 2 different characters this time. So I just love getting to know these characters and seeing what they're thinking, and it's so funny. I loved this book. I definitely recommend this whole series. I am slowly reading through it, and it is so good. Time for the ambiance to take a pause. Okay, question 3 is a new release you still need to read. There's so many, but the one that is just really getting me, and I'm I really hope I like this book. It's Daughter of Eden by Jill Eileen Smith. I've seen semi-positive / mixed reviews for this book. It came out in February, I think, and I really did mean to read it, but it's about Eve. It's about Adam and Eve and in the garden, and I definitely need to be prepared for that kind of story because obviously a lot of it is just speculation and the author taking liberty in figuring out what was going on with these characters. But I really want to read it. And if you've read it, let me know what you thought. I know there's probably a lot of mixed reviews about this book, and just it's not an easy thing to write about, but I really want to see what my opinion is and let you guys know. So definitely plan to read it this year. I have it as an ebook, so hopefully. Okay, next is most anticipated release for the second half of the year. And I really can't just say one because there's too many. I've got 3, okay? First is, well, maybe there's even 4. Okay, first is Hello Stranger by Catherine Center. I am officially on board with Catherine Center. I want to read everything that she writes. So this is her latest release. I've heard pretty good things. Like I've looked at Goodreads of people rating it. I haven't read reviews yet because I don't want to know too much about it. And actually already I'm like, oh, I hope that I like it because it follows a character who has facial blindness. And that isn't really interesting to me. I don't care about that. I don't find that interesting. So if Catherine Center can write a story about it and make me like it, that is how talented she is. So we shall see, but I still am very anticipating that book. And then the second one is, now I forget the name. It's the third book to, I think it's called Break of Day. Third book to Colleen Coble's little trilogy going on. I think it's a trilogy. Third book to Edge of Dusk and Dark of Night. I think it's Break of Day. And I just really want to know because there's so much going on with these characters. And I definitely want to read this book. I'm excited about it. Next is The Love Script by Toni Shiloh. We're all so excited about this book. Love the cover. Love that it's about like celebrity type stuff. Really into that. I think it's going to be great, especially if it is Christian fiction. Like Toni Shiloh just does faith so well in her books, but still makes it like a modern good story. So there we go. And then lastly is The Letter Tree by Rachel Fordham. This is her new release. I think it's coming out in October, maybe November. And Rachel Fordham, another kind of new author that is becoming a fave from this year. So yeah, definitely interested in this new book. Okay, question 5 is biggest surprise. And I have to say Where the Road Bends by Rachel Fordham because this was just a total random pick for me. I did a video where I was reading my friend's favorite books, and this was one of Amanda's favorite books from last year. And it is historical, and I knew that it had romance, but I just wasn't sure, especially because this is set in like 1880s Iowa. So that setting does not interest me in the slightest. I don't enjoy that setting or that historical time period. It's just like, I don't enjoy reading about it most of the time. And yet I absolutely loved this book. It was so good. I was so surprised. Like, honestly, watch the video because I really was so shocked. As I was reading it, I was like, I can't believe how much I love this book. It's so good. So this is actually a contender for favorite book of the year as well because such good romance, such good character development and dialogue. And again, this is about kind of women stuck in the sex trade. And I like when authors bring awareness to something that has been happening. You know, it's still going on. That's kind of what Dangerous Beauty is, more like the modern what it's happening. This is, you know, in the 1800s and it was happening. And I just really loved the way the author tackled this topic. Not super details, but details enough that you understand what is going on. It's not like, you know, a light-hearted kind of topic. So I just loved the way the author wove it all together, and the romance was so good. And there was side characters that were so good. So yeah, I was very surprised though. I did not think I was gonna like this book when I read it, and I loved it. Now, new favorite author, there's so many I could pick, but I'm gonna try to not repeat. So I'm gonna say Christiane Hunter. This book was in that same video actually, and I was so surprised how funny this book was. Loved the characters, loved the romance, loved the plot, just the funny things that were happening. I'm very impressed by this author, so for sure want to start reading as much Christiane Hunter as I can because this was so funny. And I've been loving all of the rest of the books in this series, so I would say that this is a new favorite author. She's definitely on my radar forever now. Okay, question 7 is newest fictional crush, and I am for sure gonna say Logan from The Friend Zone by Soraya Wilson. Recently read this book, and Logan is a football player, and he's so respectful. Like, he definitely had his like rough past, but he's like turning over a new leaf and really sticking to it, and he's so admirable for that. Loved it. And he's just like really sweet, and I just like him. So definitely have a crush. Read that book. It's really good. Okay, question 8 is book that made you cry. The Waterkeeper by Charles Martin. Theme going on. This is also about human trafficking. I wonder if, I mean, not that these books came out at the same time, they didn't, but it is interesting to me that I feel like God is speaking to authors and highlighting this topic. And I don't know, I just think it's really interesting, and the authors are doing it so well. But yeah, this is about human trafficking. There was a moment where one of the characters was describing love to one of the girls that was trafficked and was feeling very low about herself. And just the way that he described love, it just was so clearly Jesus to me, and it really brought me to tears because it was just so beautiful, the wording of it. Like, Charles Martin is a poet. He's amazing at writing, and it just spoke to my heart, the way that he was describing love and the love of God and how it's so unconditional for us. And yeah, so definitely teared up at that. And overall, this is like a very heart-wrenching book, but at the same time, there are funny moments. The dialogue and kind of the inner monologue of the characters are definitely, I would say, lighthearted. They're not like heavy, but at the same time, it's about something heavy. So good balance, I would say. But yeah, definitely a tearjerker at the same time. Okay, question 9, on another note, worst book you've read so far this year. I would say The Do-Over by Lynn Painter. I made a video about it. I won't go into it too much, but this is a YA book, and I was uncomfortable with the content in it, and yeah, I just wasn't a fan. Wasn't what I was comfortable with in a YA book. So worst book of the year for me. Okay, question 10, most beautiful book you have acquired this year. And so many generous subscribers have sent me books, and I've looked through all of them, but I have to go with the most recent one that I bought because I'm very excited about it, and I want to show you guys because you haven't seen it yet. But I bought this book because it was at Winners, which is the Canadian version of TJ Maxx or any kind of like Marshalls, whatever that you have in the States. Winners is our version of that. And I looked in their book section because Winners has books. I don't know if TJ Maxx has books or whatever, but anyways, ours has books. And I was just like perusing them, saw this book. I was like, oh, interesting. Like, yeah, I would like to own this book. It's Catherine Center. Loved this book, whatever. $10. The sticker said $10. And originally it's $36.99 Canadian, like $27.99 US. See the difference there with the prices? Yeah. In Canadian, it's like basically $37. Got this for $10. I love this cover. I love her new style. It's same with Hello Stranger. Hello Stranger has the very similar style to this, and I'm loving it. So yeah, beautiful hardcover, and I got it. So I'm excited. This is definitely the most beautiful book that I have acquired this year. Okay, and question 11 is books that are still on your 2023 TBR. There are quite a few, but the number one book that I want to make sure that I read this year is Wistress by Nadine Brandes. I've meant to read it sooner than this. I think Katie, when she was doing her Christian readathon in April, was it? This was the book club group, or the, wow, get it together. This was the group read, and I meant to read it, but April I got really sick and my TBR went off the rails, so I didn't get to it. And also, my library doesn't have a physical copy. However, the library where my parents live does. And so I'm gonna go visit my parents this summer, and I plan to get Wistress from the library and read it physically because I really want to read it physically. I have the ebook and the audiobook for Wistress, but I've started both and I couldn't get into it because, like, for some reason with a complicated fantasy, I really need to have the physical book or I don't know what's going on. And not that this is complicated, but anything fantasy is a little bit for me. So anyways, I do plan to read Wistress though. It has so much hype. And for the most part, I've seen like everyone that I know really love it. So I really hope that I love it too because I didn't like Fox that much. And so Wistress is my last chance with this author because all of her other books, I've read the description and I'm like, no, I'm not gonna like that book. I won't even try. What's the point? But with Wistress, I feel like I could like it because it sounds Hunger Games-ish to me. And I think that's how it's been described as well. I think there is magic in it and it revolves around colors possibly, which is a problem because color magic makes no sense to me. But maybe Wistress can do it well. We'll see. So that's that. There are way more books on my TBR that I still want to finish for the rest of the year, but Wistress is the number one for me. And that is the tag, you guys. So definitely do this if you make videos. It's such a great kind of check-in. I do also plan to just make a straight video of my favorite books of the year so far, so that will be coming. Anyways, thank you for watching. Here's the books that were in this video, and then plus all of the covers that I put up. And enjoy, you guys, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, guys.